In this video, we're stepping into the wild, untouchable world of Christopher Welsh Jr., better known as the Scouse Escobar. A lad from the Wirral who didn't just carry the Pablo Escobar nickname. He lived the lifestyle. From flooding Glasgow's streets with £200 million worth of heroin and cocaine, to blowing £57,000 in cash on a Cancun wedding that screamed kingpin swagger, Welsh built an empire that laughed in the face of the law. When they eventually locked him up, he continued running the firm from prison. He had phones stashed in the best hiding places. This is the tale of a man who turned Merseyside into his playground and stretched a 28-year sentence into a saga of sheer defiance. Christopher Welsh Jr. came into the world around 1979, a Wirral boy from Lyndale Avenue in Eastham. His old man, Christopher Welsh Sr., hailed from Anfield, first at Paley Close and later Regal Walk. At the time, neither of them had a legit job. They were unemployed, with no pay slips, nothing. But what they did have was ambition, a burning hunger for wealth and the good life. They weren't about the 9-to-5 grind. They wanted the fast lane, the big score. And they found it in the drug game. Welsh Jr. didn't just play the part. He was styled after the legend, Pablo Escobar. The nickname stuck, Scouse Escobar. Exactly when they kicked off their operation, that's lost in the haze. But by 2011, the wheels were spinning hard. Picture this. June 2011, Cancun, Mexico. The sun was blazing, the waves crashing, and Welsh Jr. standing tall, 34 years old, with £57,000 in cold, hard cash burning a hole in his pocket. He didn't just throw a wedding, he threw a spectacle. 40 mates and family, flown out to the beaches of Mexico for a no-expense-spared bash that doubled as his stag do. The crew rocked t-shirts emblazoned with Pablo's stag do, a nod to their idol, a flex to the world. This wasn't pocket change. This was drug money, pure and simple, funding a lifestyle most could only dream of. Back home, the cops were starting to sniff around, but out there, he was untouchable, the Scouse Escobar in his prime. While Welsh Jr. was soaking up the sun, his empire was kicking into overdrive. Between September 1st, 2011 and October 2012, police clocked 111 trips. They were courier runs stitching Liverpool to Glasgow with heroin and cocaine. This wasn't small time. This was a 30-strong gang, a cross-border cartel that was highly sophisticated, efficient, and lucrative. Welsh Jr. and his dad were the brains, the top dogs. Their right-hand man, Mark Shields, kept the machine humming, warehousemen stashing gear in Kirkdale, Walton and Everton, runners dodging the law. Each trip held up to 2 kilos of Class A drugs, street value stacking between £100 million and £200 million. That's the scale we're talking. The operation was slick. Couriers like Liam Clotworthy clocked 18 runs to Glasgow, dressing sharp to blend with the train crowd. They used road, rail, whatever worked. In Everton, Stephen Wood's place on Orry Street hid a 10-ton press and moulds, churning heroin into solid blocks like a factory line. Police managed to seize 32 kilos of heroin and cocaine and 105 kilos of mixing agents, with a street value just shy of £12 million. But that was just what they caught. Welsh Jr. was living large. He had enjoyed holidays in Mexico, Spain, Holland, Greece and Sharm el-Sheikh. He even had a posh caravan in Gronant, North Wales. It was all funded by the gear rolling north. It was October 2012, and a train rattled north, cutting through the grey dawn like a blade. Liam Clotworthy, was sat stiff in his seat, suit pressed sharp, tie knotted tight. 18 times he's made this run. Liverpool to Glasgow, 2 kilos of heroin or cocaine tucked in his holdall, blending with the suits and briefcases. He was good at this, smart clothes, low profile. 18 wins under his belt, dodging the law like a ghost. Clotworthy was just a cog, but a damn reliable one. But trip 19 was where the rails ran out. The train pulled into the station. The air was cold, the platform buzzing with commuters. Clotworthy's holdall swang heavy with heroin inside, £1.2 million worth once it's cut and peddled on Glasgow's streets. He's almost home free, just one more handover. But Operation Blenheim were watching. The police moved in, no warning, no chance. They ripped the holdall open, and the heroin was put into evidence bags. Over 1 million, gone in a flash. Clotworthy's 19th trip had ended in cuffs, not cash. Another one of the Scouse Escobar's foot soldiers eliminated. October 2012 marked the unravelling. Raids tore through North Liverpool. 30 men were rounded up. Merseyside and Strathclyde police had eyes everywhere. 111 trips tracked, safe houses marked. That month, they were closing in. At one Everton flat in Patmos Close, the scene turned chaotic. Colin Harrison panicked as the knocks at his door thundered. As police forced entry, he lobbed a briefcase out of the window, nearly 3 kilos of heroin spilling out when it burst. It was too late. The gang were dropping like flies. North Liverpool was crawling with coppers. Welsh Jr.'s empire, built on bravado and bricks of powder, was starting to crack. As 2012 was winding down, Christopher Welsh Jr. was riding high. The Scouse Escobar had it all, £200 million in heroin and cocaine, pumping from Liverpool to Glasgow, and countless trips clocked in just over a year. His warehousemen stashed the gear in safe houses all over, while a 10-ton press in Stephen Wood's place churned heroin into blocks like it was a small factory. Welsh Jr. was untouchable, sipping cocktails abroad one week, then counting cash in Eastham the next. His dad, Christopher Sr., and right-hand man Mark Shields kept the machine oiled. The good life was theirs for the taking. But it wasn't just the henchmen that Operation Blenheim was targeting. They'd been on his scent since at least September 2011. Eyes on the rails, ears on the streets. They'd tracked the couriers and pieced together the network. They had traced the phone records and financial trails, and by early 2013, Welsh Jr.'s luck had run dry. The October busts had him pinned. Clotworthy and others had been taken down, and whether they were singing or silent, it didn't matter. The evidence was ironclad. He was taken into custody. The empire was in tatters. By April, Don Pablo was standing in Liverpool Crown Court, facing the music. The judge wasn't playing. 16 years and 8 months slammed down. His dad got 15 and 4, and Shields got 14 years. The gang's top 9 racked up nearly 120 years between them. The rest followed. But the police weren't done. They were after the £15 million fortune, the Rolexes, the Gronant caravan, every last penny. This was a bloodbath for the gang, but that wasn't the last we'd hear of Christopher Welsh Jr. In July 2013, Welsh Jr. had barely settled into HMP Garth, later named Loudham Grange, when he was back at it. Now aged 35, he was locked up, but still unstoppable. He got hold of illicit mobile phones, and he started running a new conspiracy with Neil Sutermeyer of Anfield as his second-in-command. He was feeding drugs to John Reed's crew in Glasgow. Phone records caught him directing deals. One job: a Kellogg's cornflake box stuffed with half a kilo of 63% pure cocaine. The coke was worth £27,000 raw, or £160,000 when cut with 2 kilos of benzocaine. Another courier was nabbed in Glasgow with just under a kilo of heroin, £25,000 worth uncut, or £140,000 on the street. This wasn't a man broken by bars, this was defiance dialed up. In October 2013, the screws at Loudham Grange raided his cell. They found the mobile phone, but he didn't blink. This was the Scouse Escobar. He was just playing the game from the inside. Later that year, in December 2013, the operation was still alive. Wendy Abraham stepped up, ferrying cocaine and heroin between Liverpool and Glasgow. She also smuggled drugs and phones into HMP Forest Bank for Jack Holt. He was a fellow conspirator who was banged up for burglary. She was hiding the gear in her underwear, cannabis, steroids, phones, you name it. Back at Loudham Grange, in April 2014, Welsh Jr.'s cell was searched again. This time, 2 SIM cards were found. The cards weren't hidden inside the cell, though. They were literally stashed on him. As well as Glasgow, now, Neil Sotomayor was pushing amphetamines and heroin into North Wales, Workington and Middlesbrough from April to June. Between July 2013 and September 2014, this second conspiracy was moving Class A and B drugs worth up to £3 million. Prison was no cage for Welsh. It was his office. – 2014 rolls in, and Welsh Jr. was back in Liverpool Crown Court. 7 days on trial, denying everything. Conspiracy to supply cocaine, heroin, the lot. The jury was out for nearly 3 hours. The results came in: guilty. His sentencing was now pending alongside Sotomayor and John Reid from Glasgow. By September that year, the game was up for Christopher Welsh Jr. and his father, Christopher Sr. Titan wasn't done with them. They'd hit the gang hard. Rolex watches ripped from wrists, platinum jewelry confiscated, and cash stacks peeled from hiding spots under floorboards. Every glint of that lavish life had gone. But now, in a Liverpool courtroom, the real bill became due. Welsh Jr. stood there, already caged for 16 years, staring down a new demand. Cough up £275,000 in 6 months, or they will tag 3 more years onto his jail time. His dad got the same treatment, £150,000 or an extra 27 months on his 15-year bid. Together, £425,000 of their ill-gotten gains clawed back by the Northwest Organised Crime Unit. In 2015, Welsh Jr. was back in court for the coke and heroin conspiracy. And the judge wasn't holding back. Another 12 years slapped on for his prison cell operation. Neil Sotomayor got 14 years. John Reid got 9 years and 4 months. Wendy Abraham took 10 years and 6 months. She had been transporting the gear, stashing it at home, and smuggling for Holt and another lag, Paul Mount, who got 21 months. Other members of the gang followed. They were Stephen Wiggum, 36, who got 8 years and 9 months, Alan Clayton, with 6 years and 6 months, and Paul Hawkins, with 7 years. 12 of them in total were convicted, with 90 years handed down between them. During the investigation and raids, police seized over 5 kilos of cocaine, some in a safe, some in bags, plus a handwritten deal list written by Welsh Jr. himself. Fast forward to August 2020, and Welsh Jr., now 43, was locked up in HMP Weymouth in Lancashire. The jails were on lockdown, but he had managed to get an iPhone and a SIM card. But after they caught him in April 2021, he was moved to HMP Berwyn in Wales. Same story again. They found him with a tiny Zanco mobile and another SIM. He's not dealing though this time. He's calling family, clinging to the outside world as the walls close in. But it's enough to keep the screws on edge. In 2022 at Caernarfon Crown Court, Welsh Jr. owned up to possessing the banned items. He got 6 more months tacked onto his sentence, 28 years and 6 months total now. But he's not fighting it. He's weathered worse. The Scouse Escobar's still inside, still kicking, a name that echoes through the nick. At the beginning of 2025, Christopher Welsh Jr. was still behind bars, serving that mammoth 28 years and 6 months. No release in sight. From Eastham to Cancun, Glasgow to Lodham Grange, he left a trail. £200 million in drugs, a gang torn apart, and a fortune chased by Titan. He lived the good life, holidays, watches, a lavish wedding. But it came at a price. The Scouse Escobar didn't just play the game, he owned it, even when the bars slammed shut. And that's the story. Rise, fall, and a defiance that never quit. This is UK gangland, as raw as it gets. For more raw and real crime stories, hit the like button and subscribe. Until the next episode, stay alert and stay safe.